Hey everyone, welcome back. We are in fall. We're in the middle of September already. I don't know how that happened. And I guess I've just kind of taken to broadcasting in my living room through the fall season for now. This week, I want to talk about a topic that is like it should be easy, but it is deceptively difficult, at least for me. And that topic is integrity, believe it or not. So, the idea of having integrity is, of course, being honest, being moral, being ethical, doing the right thing, no matter how hard it is. And I find in this day and age that it is really difficult to find people of full on integrity. I know for my own self, I haven't always lived the kind of like full integrity life I would like to live. I've definitely made mistakes that were not moral and were not ethical, that were feeling based and not having a proper compass, moral compass based. And I know a lot of people like that. I know I'm not the only one, I'm not the first, I'm not the last. And I would almost be hard pressed to say I don't know if I know anybody who is like 100% in like honest. And that sounds kind of awful. I think that in an ideal world, we all like to believe we're very honest people and that we're never dishonest and we don't lack integrity. And I just think that it's not true. I think that one of the difficulties of being human and being in the flesh is that we want to be honest, but we don't always take the honest route. And like I said, I've definitely not taken the honest route before. So this is a message I need too. And actually, so many of these messages are for me as well as everybody out there who's listening. So what makes being honest so difficult, right? And like many things that we talk about, being honest, being moral, having integrity is kind of made difficult because of our emotions and our feelings and how we don't want to hurt the feelings of others. Sometimes it's because we want to avoid a conflict, right? I know in my past life, there have been times where instead of saying how I honestly felt or just giving the answer that was full of integrity, I would kind of just bow to other people's what I thought they wanted because I didn't want to fight. I wanted to take the sort of passive least resistance route. And that comes from, for a very long time, I was an aggressive person who like sought out conflict. And that's not good. You never want to do that. And so I took the complete, someone once told me it's like when you respond to conflict, you can be the Tasmanian devil or the turtle. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that. It's the idea of like going like crazy and like fighting or like withdrawing within yourself. And as often is the case when there's two different things, there's usually a third path, right? Like fight or flight or freeze. Well, I'm sure there's like Tasmanian devil, turtle, and like something else. I don't know. Fish that like swims gracefully by. I don't know. Right. And this idea that sometimes we are overbearingly in people's faces. I used to be like that when I was younger. I was very hot-headed. Then this idea that, you can be sort of like withdraw within yourself and be kind of like cold and like shut everybody out, which is kind of how I auto-corrected to be for my own self. And neither of those are really great. But in the idea of integrity, I stopped, because this is what I used to do when I was angry or hurt or frustrated or embarrassed or anything as a kid. I would just shout out anything I felt. I said some horrible things, right? We do that a lot as kids. We just say what we're thinking and they're not always the nicest things. And then as I got older, I didn't say anything. I just stopped kind of speaking. Or I would just kind of give the path of least resistance, which was never the honest answer. And I'm not talking about things like, oh, well, I don't think you look good in that dress. You know, I'm talking about things about like how I felt or what I thought or anything that required my honest input. Sometimes I wouldn't give it. And when you don't give an outlet for your honest thoughts or honest feelings, a lot of times what happens is you start getting some dishonest actions. So integrity is really, 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 really important for us being our best selves and having our best relationships. But it's hard. It's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. And how do we go from maybe not being the most honest to getting to be moral, honest people? What do we do? How do we fix that, right? Because honesty, like trust, like success, like any achievement, it's easier to lose than it is to gain. So when you do something dishonest or immoral, it's much easier, like substantially easier to lose that like good reputation, let's say, than it is to like gain a reputation for being honest. Once you've done an immoral thing or a dishonest thing or something that lacks integrity, it's hard to show the world that like, oh, that was just a mistake and I really am a good integrity type person. People don't like to believe it then. They're like, well, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So what do we do, right? How do we take some of these dishonest moments and make them honest? And it comes down to choices. I mean, I talked about it in week 3, right? All these concepts build on each other. It comes down to choices. You have to choose to take the hard route and not the easy route. You have to choose to speak the truth in love rather than do the path of least resistance and just kind of, oh yeah, well, whatever you want, I'm fine with that. As women, a lot of times I think we do that. I know I do, where I'll be like, it's like, oh, well, what do you think about this? I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. We could do that. I'm trying to think of a good example. I'm not coming up with one. But we kind of just go along. We go with the flow. When really a lot of times we need to be like, no, that's not going to work. That's not how we do things. When you hold that boundary, a lot of times that moral or ethical boundary, perhaps, you aren't always seen as, the most approachable person, or, sometimes it's intimidating to be the person who is holding the line when other people aren't. As an example, a friend of mine will say, whenever this person struggles with being like judgmental or condescending. So for a very long time, when this person would even see somebody on the street, they would be like, oh, well, look at that person. Like, ooh, that's awkward. Like, in regards to like their physical appearance or something. And that always bothers me. I don't like that disrespect. I think it's not really fair. I don't think we should judge people by how they look. I know the world does. I don't think we should. So when people are around me, like, I don't really stand for that. And so in this case, I did have my integrity up, and I was like, why do you think that's acceptable? Like, why do you do that? That's rude. It's not nice to do that. I don't want to engage in that kind of conversation. And the person was like affronted, obviously, because I kind of snapped back at them. Not in a hurtful way, just in a, like, to be honest, this is not okay with me way. Integrity is tough because there's, like depth, so many different ways in which we can have integrity or not have integrity. So, it might be like emotional integrity, where someone asks you how you're feeling or what your thoughts and feelings are two different things, but what you're feeling or how you're feeling or why you're feeling some type of way. When we're lacking integrity in our emotional response, we might be like, oh, I'm not feeling anything, I'm fine, right? How often do women do that? Where we're like, oh no, I'm fine, everything's fine, I'm good, thanks though. When really you're like, my life's falling apart, I have no idea what I want to do, I can't even function. And you're really, the honest answer, the answer where you speak your truth would be, honestly, I'm not okay. I don't know what's wrong. I'm feeling super depressed. I can't get anything right this week. Everything I've cooked has gone to crap. Nothing's going right at work. The kids won't listen, right? And Nobody really, we ask a lot of times like, oh, how are you doing? And the answer people expect back is, oh, everything's great. How are you? Right? Well, sometimes everything isn't great. And to be honest, we don't like to talk about, that level of discomfort or frustration or upset that we have. So one level of being sort of, I don't want to say emotionally dishonest, but kind of, is that we sugarcoat our real feelings a lot. Or sometimes we don't even know we're doing it, right? Like, if I'm really feeling rejected, at my core, I'm feeling rejected, but I think I'm just feeling upset, and then I'm acting angry, right? So sort of levels within myself. Like if I'm acting angry, and someone's like, well, what are you mad about? I'm like, well, I'm not mad, I'm upset. It's like, okay, well, why are you upset? I'm like, oh, well, I'm upset because you didn't tell me the truth. I don't know. Well, actually, maybe it's not that I'm actually upset. It's actually I'm feeling rejected. I feel rejected because I feel like you didn't trust me enough with your truth to tell it to me. But we don't talk like that. We don't even get to some of those levels, right? So sometimes we don't even mean to be dishonest with how we're feeling. We just don't know what we don't know about our emotional depth. So we can be emotionally dishonest, right? Lack that integrity with our emotional state, emotional intelligence, if you will. We can be intellectually dishonest, right? Like we can take people's ideas that aren't ours, right? That's plagiarism. For those of you who are academic, there's a huge push, like don't steal stuff from other people without crediting them. And when you do that, when you try to present something as your own idea, that's obviously going to be dishonest and get you into a lot of trouble, which I have also done. And I got in trouble for it, and I got kicked out of student teaching for it. A lot of people don't know I got kicked out of student teaching. So at this point, I have gotten kicked out of student teaching and out of teaching. So integrity is a hard one for me. It really is. It's not hard to be honest. It's hard to let people know how I'm really feeling. Where it's also hard to, in the case of when I was kicked out of student teaching, what ended up happening was one of the teachers had said, oh, I have a quiz you can use. And I was 21, and I was like, oh, great. And so I thought he left it in the computer for me because it was in my computer. The flash drive was there. It was right there. And I was like, oh, that was so nice. Thanks a lot. And then I printed it out and I touched some things up. But for the most part, I was like, yeah, great, use it. And then when my mentor was like, did you get this from someone? I was like, no. Right? Well, obviously I did. They know what it looks like. That was just me being stupid. I should have said, yeah, Keith gave it to me, or Keith left it for me. We talked about it. But I didn't, because I was trying to be prideful and perfectionist and oh, I've got this. My pride and my independent nature get me into a lot of trouble. So this isn't the first time, it wasn't the last time. I'm hoping that I have really learned from it now. But, for me, I have a problem with integrity because I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look like I don't know, right? So it ends up reading as very dishonest a lot of times because I don't want to say I honestly don't know what I'm doing here. I've never wanted to say that because I feel like it's a weakness. Turns out it's not, right? I had to learn this one the hard way. We'll get to this another time. But as a result of not wanting to look weak, a lot of times I compromised on my moral integrity. And I didn't even realize it at the time, which probably sounds, very stupid, but we all struggle with different things. So integrity is one that kind of hits near and dear to my heart because I know I struggle with it. And so, and I guess you can't be any more honest than being honest about the fact that you struggle with integrity, I guess. But it's a hard nut, integrity, because to some level, we're all kind of dishonest. I don't know of anybody who is 100% honest 100% of the time. Although if there's someone out there, that's awesome. And you don't struggle with this, and come on and talk to me, but of course I ended up talking to the supervisor, and they had a zero tolerance policy on plagiarism. And so I ended up getting kicked out of student teaching right then and there, 3 weeks into my first student teaching assignment. And I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Right? And then I went to a school where the way that they functioned was sharing paperwork. And I was like, no, like I can't touch that stuff. I was like scarred. I was like, I can't, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, you have to. Like, you have to. We share everything. And I was like, but no. And my oh my God, my teacher, my co-teacher was amazing. Her name was Michaela. And she was like, you came to me, this like fragile, wounded baby bird, which I did when I started student teaching with her. And she's like, and you left this butterfly. Because when you have the right, environment and you can feel safe, a lot of times it brings out different things in different people, right? Like, it's easier to have integrity when we feel like we're in an environment to be safe and to do that and to like speak our truth, right? Which it doesn't matter. Ultimately, having integrity means it doesn't matter what the environment is, right? I was young. What did I know? I'm still young. What do I know, right? But when we are really speaking in truth, and again, the truth as we feel it to the best of our ability, right? And I guess it's kind of like the golden rule: do unto others as you want done to you, or like don't hurt anybody, or love people as you love yourself. Which some of us do love people as we love ourselves, and we don't love ourselves, so we don't love anybody else, because I've had that issue myself, but I'm not going to get into it now. So it's this idea that like you never want to do harm to anybody. That's really, at the end of the day, you don't want to harm anyone. And when you're living under that premise, it still doesn't mean you won't harm anybody, but it means you're trying hard not to. Your heart is always in the right place. Well, your heart has to be in the right place, and your morals have to be in the right place. So when you're making a moral decision, it's going to trump your feelings. And like I said, this is one that I struggle with. Anybody who knows my past, my history, well, I just relayed some of it to you. It's been a struggle for me, because anytime it came to making a moral decision or a feeling decision, I always make the feeling decision. And it gets me into a lot of trouble. I learned really a lot of valuable lessons. I've had a rough go of it, but which is why I'm trying to come to you so you don't have a rough go of it. But what I am finding, and what I really, really, really believe, after so many things that have gone awry, integrity is so important. It's just not worth it to be dishonest. It's not worth it to be immoral. It's literally not worth the cost. Nothing is. And so coming with this week with integrity, and getting into some of these deeper, more difficult, less tangible topics. Speaking the truth in love is so important, but always choosing to do the right thing. And they're like, how do you know what the right thing is? The right thing is the thing that you don't have to do in the dark. That's a good way to think about it. Like, if you have to wait until like the cover of night, or till people aren't aware, or you have to be sneaky, those are indicators that you're not doing the moral thing, right? If you can't let other people know, or if you can't do it in the sunshine, or if you can't like be open about it, odds are you're doing something not great. That's kind of how I like parse it out. So if I was doing something moral with the talking about the test, then I would have just told my co-op teacher, the first one, like, oh yeah, Keith gave it to me, right? If I really saw there was nothing wrong with what I was doing, I'd be like, oh, Keith gave it to me, no big deal. But I think on some level I knew I shouldn't be taking someone else's stuff. That's the easy way. Even though he said I could, which of course he very like conveniently forgot. He said I could. It was very awkward. I should have never trusted him, but I also get myself in trouble with trusting people I shouldn't. So that's another story for another day as well. But long and short, if you can't with all honesty be like, oh yeah, I did this thing, then there's something wrong with it. There's something immoral about it. If you can't take credit for the thing that you did, like, oh yeah, I said that. Why? What did I do? What happened? Right? then there's something wrong. If you know that you're like, oh my God, I said that, but I didn't mean for you to get upset. Like, that's integrity. Like, I did say this thing, I'm sticking by what I said, but this is my moral, like coming back to true north. That's autocorrect. That's my symbol for it with my hands. If you're like, yeah, I did this thing, but I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. That just literally happened to me the other day, where I said something, I did something that offended someone else, and that was not my intent at all. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. I could easily fess up to doing it because I didn't think of it as immoral. I didn't think of it as something sneaky. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry I hurt you. But I wasn't trying to be immoral, or I wasn't trying to be sneaky or deceptive or dishonest. I was trying to be helpful, and it got taken sort of out of context. Humans, we mess up, like, things happen. But when we can be accountable to ourselves and honest with ourselves and honest with other people, to speak the truth in love and to act in love, we have a better chance of having that integrity level that we need to have. We really do. So that we can be trustworthy and just our best selves. That's what we're trying to do here. So, loaded topic. We'll break it down more as we go in this week, but yeah, it's a heavy one. So check your inventory. Do you speak the truth? Do you speak the truth in love? Do you want to help people? Do you make the moral decision or the feeling decision? Think about it, and I'll meet you back here next week.